when you're moving from place to place, place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It is 7:55 a.m. and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Yes, viewers, as we head on into this segment this morning, we are recognizing and acknowledging today World Down Syndrome Day, where we seek to bring that education, that awareness, and to heighten it in many ways, forms, and fashion. And chatting with us this morning as we speak World Down Syndrome Day 2023, we get a parent's perspective, and we have on set with us this morning Desmond Woods. And I know Ria is wherever she is, hyped and energized as best as she can be with the energy for you being on set with us here this morning. Good morning to you.
Morning.
All right, so as we get the conversation started, we want to get first and foremost, from your perspective as a parent, how would you, in terms of looking at the experience as a dad and as a father with a child with Down syndrome?
Well, there has been challenges, but with those challenges, there are rewards. Children with Down syndrome are very, very loving, so there's never a shortage of love from Gabrielle, and the challenges are overshadowed by the rewards that are gotten from the love given from children with Down syndrome. So it's a balance.
Would you say that as as a parent, naturally it has allowed you to be to take an even more keen interest? As parents, naturally we do that, but sometimes we go to that extent, and children remind us as they get older, because we're still in parent mode, trying to do everything, making sure this is secure and so on. Would you say that has gained that, put you in a position where you have gained an even more key interest in all aspects, possibly sometimes going a little too extra, not allowing that child to develop those skills on their own? Tell us a little bit about that.
Especially with fathers and girl children, we tend to be very protective. But ideally, we want what's best for her, and ideally, we want her to get to the stage where she's as independent as possible. So she will need us less and less. So that's the goal.
All right. You would, as you mentioned, in terms of your daughter, when you first found out, tell us a little bit about, what were your initial thoughts? How were you feeling then, as parents now getting this kind of information? Was it something you were already knowledgeable about, or you had to learn along the way? What was the experience like?
Yeah, it was a shock, and we would have had to do our research along the way to find out as much as possible on what should be done, what type of medical issues she might have, and different issues that we'll have to deal with along the way. So it's a learning process for us.
I want you to share, for the benefit of our viewers, people seem to think children who have Down syndrome or affected in any way, form, or fashion are so different. Tell us a little bit about those, school life, friends, hobbies. Does it really vary that much? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, the experiences are pretty similar. It's just that they don't learn as fast. But everything else is pretty similar. So they would be able to access everything that normal children can do, just that mentally they are a little slower. But physically, they are pretty much the same. So we try to expose her to everything that we expose a normal child to because you have to be able, because there are certain things that she's better at. So in order to find out what she's better at, you have to expose her to everything that a normal child will be exposed to. So initially, we tried to get her she got into nursery school. And we got her to the stage at 5 years old where she could get into a primary school. So the requirements for a primary school, you have to know your numbers, you have to know your letters, the letter songs. So at 5 years old, she could do all of that. So she was able to access normal primary school. But as time went along, we realized she wasn't able to keep up. And that's why she's now at Mighty Minds Inclusive Learning Center in Signal Hill, a specialized school, to be able to assist her in her academics. And just like a normal child, she has friends. I could mention Tikaya at school, which she talks about all the time. And she's into gymnastics, she's into dance. She loves, well, like most children, she loves the TikTok. She always wants to do videos. So we try to expose her as much as possible and see what she's good at so we can direct her in the right direction.
So you sound like just in my household where you have to remind them you can't use everywhere in the house. This is still my private space. I could be walking into a video. So you have to give them that kind of direction from time to
You need to
time.
have the restriction.
Yes.
And just like a normal child, there are certain days where you can't use the tablet.
Yes.
You have to restrict them, cut them off. You can't be on it all day. Things like so. It's pretty much the same. It's just that it's a little slower.
So I know that Ria would have had conversations with you in the past, and you seem to be, you all seem to be parents that kind of have a real grip on this, managing your professional lives, managing the home. And yes, it may come with its challenges, but what's your advice for other parents out there who are probably now going through this, still not yet at a settled point? I don't know if you have any, I know there's no book that can just say these are the do's and the don'ts. But what's your general advice, especially parents who are new to this and feeling like, oh my God, I don't know where to turn, I don't know what to do, I don't know how I'm going to survive this, Lord?
Yeah, you have to lean on the Almighty. Continue to have faith in God that He will direct you, as well as leaning on other parents who would have gone through this before. Listen to them, talk to them, the experience they would have had, and do your research. We have information at our fingertips now. We just Google everything. So go to the internet, find out as much information as possible, and lean on the Almighty and create a support group. So we have gotten a lot of support from friends, from the church, from co-workers. We're not perfect.
Yes.
We would make mistakes, but continue to lean on your support system for help, and by the grace of God, you'll be able to succeed.
How do you manage it all? I know you're also actively involved in school, PTA in the mix. And if you connected with a particular school with Principal Devine, she doesn't allow you to not be involved. But how do you get that balance in between, that work life, family life, still being very much an active parent, there at the forefront in the mixed church, connecting it all?
Just like everything else, you can't find time, you have to make time. So there are sacrifices that would have to be made. There are things that you wouldn't be able to do at that point in time to make room for other activities. So it's a balance between my wife and I. We try our best, and our relatives and friends, we try our best to balance and move forward.
All right. As we wind down with this interview, what are your expectations? And I want to say kudos indeed. The live out there, and very often we take it for granted in terms of, as parents, and very often the story you are sharing with us, you might have just heard a mom coming to talk about it. And we're very happy to have you as dad speaking to that important connection, yourself, your wife, in terms of really driving that home and playing your part in the process as well. What are your expectations for the future, regarding your daughter at this point?
Yeah, Julian, we've had to manage our expectations. We have to be realistic about it. But initially, I didn't think my daughter would ever be able to read and write, and she's doing that now. So I am aiming for the stars. As I said earlier, we're trying to get her to the place where she can be as independent as possible. So getting her to be able to do all the basics, and then with time, she might be able to secure a job. She might even be able to move out by the grace of God.
Yes.
And live on her own. So
those parental dreams.
Just trying to get her to that point where she can be as autonomous as possible and take care of herself, and the sky's the limit.
All right. What kind of supports do you believe the broader community, society, governance, what kind of supports or additional supports do you believe can be played to help persons who, in terms of living with Down syndrome, to be able to better thrive within our environment?
Well, we're continuously fighting for inclusivity. So, for example, in the education system, including them in normal schooling. But to do that, there would be need for extra support. So the children would need to have individual teachers assigned to them to be able to go through the primary school system. So, for example, in Trinidad, there are parents who sit in the primary school with their children with Down syndrome to be able to support them. And we have gotten to the stage where next year, a young lady with Down syndrome will be doing SEA. So there are possibilities. We just have to make the adjustments, put in the necessary support to get the children through academically.
Would you say that other parents, and looking at the community side of things now, because as I made mention to you before we got into this interview, and I spoke about it earlier, I was happy to hear my child getting that level of awareness within the school system, and to recognize that we all have our shortcomings. We all have challenges that we face, but we still got to take on life and to face it head on. How important is that in the process? So I'm not just talking about what the system provides, but even parents seeking to reinforce that with their children in the school system.
Yeah, we have to get the information out there, make the awareness possible so parents, other parents with children with Down syndrome will know what can be done. So we have to continuously advocate for them, continuously get that information out to educate parents and let them know that the sky is the limit, and we have to encourage them to come into these support groups. We have the Down Syndrome Family Network has a national WhatsApp chat. So we hear all the experiences from all the parents throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So as a parent, get involved, get into the groups with other parents, and don't only what's the word? Pigeonhole your children to groups with children with Down syndrome. Continually expose them to groups with normal children so they'll be able to see what normal children do, to be able to
in terms of exposing them.
Get the exposure to with normal children so they'll be able to achieve. May not be as fast, but the achievement is possible.
All right. And as we wrap this morning, you mentioned a good point there in terms of the network. How can persons access that for those who probably were not even aware it's as accessible or reaching out? Social media, what's the access to be able to connect with the network?
Call any of the parents. Call Mrs. Alexander at Mighty Minds. You can call me, 764-9177. Just make the link with other parents and it's easy to get involved.
Your words in closing this morning to each and everyone out there today on World Down Syndrome Day 2023, the awareness.
Yeah, our tagline for this year is with us, not for us. So we have to get past treating children with Down syndrome like charity and get involved, ask them what they want, and help them to do. We have to do things with them and not for them. Help them to be autonomous, help them to be independent, and be able to act independently. So no more charity, with us, not for us.
Excellent. Thank you very much there, Desmond Woods, parent, Down Syndrome Awareness Advocate, and speaking to us here today on World Down Syndrome Day 2023. Thank you so much for joining us here on set. Viewers, we've come to that time where we're looking to wrap up the Tobago Updates morning show. And we want to thank you so much for the continued love and support and for choosing us each and every day. And we also want to remind you, tomorrow we are heading straight on in. Tomorrow's execution of the Tobago Updates morning show is our Youth Wednesday. So we look forward to those upcoming discussions tomorrow. But we aren't asking you to head out. We are heading out from the Tobago Updates morning show, and we are heading straight on over to Good Morning Tobago GMT with Chanel. So take care and bye for now, folks.